Part 1 of the History of the 30 Years' War, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Winterrowd. History of the 30 Years' War, Volume 2, by Friedrich Schiller. Translated by Reverend A. J. W. Morrison. Part 1. The resolution which Ferdinand now adopted gave to the war a new direction, a new scene, and new actors. From a rebellion in Bohemia and the chastisement of rebels, a war extended first to Germany and afterwards to Europe. It is therefore necessary to take a general survey of the state of affairs both in Germany and the rest of Europe. Unequally as the territory of Germany and the privileges of its members were divided among the Roman Catholics and the Protestants, neither party could hope to maintain itself against the encroachments of its adversary otherwise than by a prudent use of its peculiar advantages, and by a politic union among themselves. If the Roman Catholics were the more numerous party and more favoured by the constitution of the empire, the Protestants, on the other hand, had the advantage of possessing a more compact and populous line of territories, valiant princes, a warlike nobility, numerous armies, flourishing free towns, the command of the sea, and even at the worst, certainty of support from Roman Catholic states. If the Catholics could arm Spain and Italy in their favour, the republics of Venice, Holland, and England opened their treasuries to the Protestants, while the states of the north and the formidable power of Turkey stood ready to afford them prompt assistance. Brandenburg, Saxony, and the Palatinate opposed 3 Protestant to 3 ecclesiastical votes in the Electoral College, while to the Elector of Bohemia, as to the Archduke of Austria, the possession of the imperial dignity was an important check, if the Protestants properly availed themselves of it. The sword of the Union might keep within its sheath the sword of the League, or if matters actually came to a war, might make the issue of it doubtful. But unfortunately, private interest dissolved the band of union which should have held together the Protestant members of the empire. This critical conjuncture found none but second-rate actors on the political stage, and the decisive moment was neglected because the courageous were deficient in power, and the powerful in sagacity, courage, and resolution. The Elector of Saxony was placed at the head of the German Protestants, by the services of his ancestor Maurice, by the extent of his territories, and by the influence of his electoral vote. Upon the resolution he might adopt, the fate of the contending parties seemed to depend, and John George was not insensible to the advantages which this important situation procured him. Equally valuable as an ally both to the Emperor and to the Protestant Union, he cautiously avoided committing himself to either party, neither trusting himself by any irrevocable declaration entirely to the gratitude of the Emperor, nor announcing the advantages which were to be gained from his fears. Uninfected by the contagion of religion and romantic enthusiasm which hurried sovereign after sovereign to risk both crown and life on the hazard of war, John George aspired to the more solid renown of improving and advancing the interests of his territories. His contemporaries accused him of forsaking the Protestant cause in the very midst of the storm, of preferring the aggrandizement of his house to the emancipation of his country, of exposing the whole evangelical or Lutheran Church of Germany to ruin, rather than raise an arm in defence of the Reformed or Calvinists, of injuring the common cause by his suspicious friendship more seriously than the open enmity of his avowed opponents. But it would have been well if his accusers had imitated the wise policy of the Elector. If, despite of the prudent policy, the Saxons, like all others, groaned at the cruelties which marked the Emperor's progress, if all Germany was a witness how Ferdinand deceived his confederates and trifled with his engagements, if even the Elector himself at last perceived this, the more shame to the Emperor who could so basely betray such implicit confidence. If an excessive reliance on the Emperor and the hope of enlarging his territories tied the hands of the Elector of Saxony, the weak George William, Elector of Brandenburg, was still more shamefully fettered by fear of Austria and the loss of his dominions. What was made a reproach against
Sample complete. Ready to continue?